You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Everyone hates to spring forward, yet here we are, in sunlight once again.
Will we ever see darkness, my old friend?
I won't. I go to sleep before it gets dark out, because I'm scared.
I do know you hate the dark.
Imagine. Wake up early. Wake up with the sun. Go to sleep with the sun.
The dark is one of my phobias, but I think there's contributing factors in specific situations. I'm not afraid of the dark, but if I'm in the dark without my glasses on, deal breaker. I'm afraid of the dark. Also, any dark basement.
You're not afraid to be alone in the dark. You're afraid that you're not alone in the dark.
True.
Shout out to that Tumblr post.
True.
Anyways, hello everyone. Good evening, I should say. Good bright evening. I'm Grace Topinka.
And I'm Chelsea Rowan, and you're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword, your favorite weekly Podword crosscast. Thanks for joining us again this week.
If it's your first time, well then welcome aboard.
Welcome. We'll be collecting tickets momentarily.
Well, I have a clarification corner to start us off.
Ooh, okay.
Well, if you remember last episode, I was asking about the clue that was the different text symbols in the New York Times, and the answer was oaths. And I was like, why does this mean oaths? They look like curse words to me. And a listener, Matthew Fried, emailed us and said that is his understanding. The New York Times has taken the idea that when you give an oath, you are swearing, like being sworn in, and has just run with that. So, yeah, they mean swearing, like censoring, swearing to oath. I don't know.
Okay.
That's that. I guess that answers my question. I don't know if I do believe that is the answer, but I don't know if I'm fully satisfied with that. But that is a bone to pick with the New York Times, I guess.
Okay. Yes. I'll just add that to my pile of bones that I need picking.
Yes. You should really get on that, actually.
They're piling up.
I'm worried about you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Matthew Fried. Let us know how your name is pronounced, and we will correct ourselves next week. We appreciate you writing to us. Does that lead us into Pollapalooza?
That's our sound effects department. Yes. So we tweeted, what's your birthstone color family? Options: red and orange, white and clear, blue and purple, or green and yellow. And top answer, 43%, blue and purple. You lucky ducks.
Oh, welcome to the club. I'm also in the blue and purple range. I am Amethyst. That would be a great name, by the way. Hi, my name's Amethyst. Oh, I'm going to introduce myself as Amethyst from now on.
Okay. Your name could be Amy. I'd be like, what is that short for? I guess no one would ask that about Amy. Damn it. You know how they say, like, your name could be Mike? Maybe, like, short for Michael? It's like, no, it's short for Mycicle.
No, what I'd say is, you can just call me Amy, I guess. My name's kind of difficult.
Okay. Your fantasy world that you live in.
That's all I got. That's all I got
Amethyst
anymore.
is a cool name for, like, some hippie child. Mm-hmm. Let us know if you know anyone named Amethyst. Or anyone named after a gemstone, actually. Would love to hear it. Second place at 29%, we have green and yellow. Those are my people. 21% red and orange. And then 7% white and clear.
Ah, so we don't got a lot of diamonds here.
Diamonds and opals, I thought, could go there.
Mm-hmm.
And pearls.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess not many of those. I have to look into those birth charts and see what that means for our listeners. But thanks for voting. And if you want to vote in our next one, remember to follow us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Do it. Yeah. So now we're heading directly into our next segment, the one you've all been waiting for. It's called Hits and Shits, but we also call it Heights and Shites.
This is like the most organized we've ever been.
I'm trying not to jinx us, but like, wow. We're doing great.
I'm proud of us.
I know. I hope our listeners are also proud of us, because I feel like sometimes they got to put up with some bull crap.
Yeah.
But
maybe they're like, what podcast is this?
Like, who are these girls again?
They're not ranting for 10 minutes about their personal problems.
Just about their, hippie dream names. What's your hippie dream name?
Peridot. Actually, that's kind of cute. You can go by Dottie. No.
Don't even start. That is so cute.
If you have twins, Peridot and Amethyst. I always thought it'd be funny to have twins and name them, no, I can't remember. Oh, Penny and Nicole. So it's like Nickel. And then when I was little, I thought that would be funny.
I love it.
Well, I can start us off with a shite, but I think he did this on purpose.
Okay.
The USA Today March 13th puzzle by Eric Agard. 3 down. Oreos are often eaten with this relish.
Why do you do this to us?
Now, whether or not people eat Oreos with relish, that's a different thing, but often eaten with relish? No.
Y'all are getting crazy out there with your Oreo clues.
I feel like that has to be an inside joke.
It has to be. What else could it be? I mean, Eric, maybe you're eating your Oreos with relish, but I think someone needs to tell you that that's not often. I mean, I think maybe you eat it often. I mean, I'm not shit talking Eric. Of course I'm not. I just want to be let in on the joke. So like next time, email us, let us know it's coming. We could prepare. You know, if you did that, we could prepare on the podcast and be like, yeah, like everyone eats it with relish, and then confuse all of our listeners.
Should we try that and do a mukbang?
We should do a mukbang, yes.
Or just a video. If this episode gets 500 listens, we will put a video of us eating Oreos with relish on our Twitter. So share this episode.
Boom, done, deli.
Our listeners are like, no one wants to see that, and no one cares.
Everyone out there's like, what the hell's a mukbang? I'm like, Google
to which I say, fair enough.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, you had to be there. Can I start the hits and shits now that we've rambled?
That was a shite.
Oh, you're right.
Rude. Taking that away from me. But yes, you can add on to the hits and shits.
Okay, I'm going to start with a hit, or just, some crossword news, if you will. The American Crossword Puzzle Tournament announced their dates for 2021. So ACPT is one of the longest running crossword tournaments. It's the one hosted by Will Shortz. If you don't know who Will Shortz is because you're either new to this podcast or you don't actually know anything about crosswords, Will Shortz is the editor of the New York Times crossword. He spells his last name with a Z, and that's actually how he spells his name.
Infamous
man.
The New York Times crossword.
Anyway, so ACPT is going to be virtual this year. Last year they canceled, so it's kind of a big deal that they're going to go virtual. The dates are Friday, April 23rd to Sunday, April 25th. Registration is open. You can sign up and find info about the tournament schedule on acptonline.com. It's $50 for a single solver to join, and it is $60 for a pair to join. Are Grace and I joining? I mean, I don't know. April 23rd, it's right around the corner. I don't think we have nearly enough time to debate this.
I'm actually busy
ourselves.
that day.
Yeah, I've been busy my entire life, so we'll see.
We can maybe join. I don't know. We can discuss. Is there like a dumb bitch category we can compete in?
If there isn't, they should make one, especially for us. And I'm telling you, if anybody's hosting a crossword tournament and you want 2 people to be the worst hosts ever, call us up. We'll have fun ruining the tournament.
I feel like hosting, in theory, I would like to do it, but I think it's a lot harder than it looks because, like, when I go to storytelling stuff, the host there, I mean, if someone, like, falls coming onto the stage, you can't laugh at them. You have to be able to turn it around and make them not feel awkward about it. And I really admire people who are able to do that. I'm like such a nervous giggler that I don't know if I could handle that. I'm not professional enough for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying is if there's any crossword tournaments out there that want us to be a hot mess of a pair of hosts, we can confirm that will happen.
Yeah, that's all we can promise.
And we, at least, will have a lot of fun. I have no idea if the people constructing will have fun, but we'll have fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking of that audience. And
True.
Us. It's like oil and water.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? Anyway, what else is going on?
I don't know. Oh, I liked the USA Today March 17th crossword by Zaushine Bernikel. I always love the USA Today crosswords. I talk about them all the time, but one of the reasons why I love it, 41 down, split screen TikTok video.
Stitch.
And the answer, duet.
Oh, they did duet. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Stitch
right.
Is not split screen.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, If you're on TikTok, you would get that answer right away.
If you know, you know. I do like the USA Today puzzles. I did 2 this week, which is a lot for me because I often just, gravitate towards the WAPO, the New Yorker, New York Times. Those are the ones that I just tend to like put in my browser and search. But I was like, let's do some USA Today. So I did a USA Today, and then I realized it was from November 2020, and I was like, oh, God damn it.
How did that happen?
I have no idea how that one just popped up.
You have to get the app.
I know. I have to get that.
Then
app.
you only get the current day. And I like use it. It's like a good because they are like challenging, but not over challenging. Like I can always complete the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice confidence boost when you can complete a crossword.
But it's a nice way to like, get my teeth wet.
Ooh.
Before I bite into some harder puzzles.
That's what she said.
Is that a phrase?
I like to get my. I think there's a phrase in there.
You get something wet. But I don't know if it's your teeth. Let me know.
Let us know. Did you do the
feet
Sunday?
Wet. Get your feet wet.
Is it your feet?
Yeah, like you dip your toes.
I mean, yeah, you could.
I mean, you could do any of those things. The question is this a phrase that people use?
When you drink water.
Sure. I just got my teeth wet right now. Hope that didn't sound disgusting in the mic.
Well, I'll let you know when I edit the podcast later this week.
Thank you.
Yeah. So did you do the March 14th WAPO Sunday? Evan Bernholz, of course.
Is this one they had to print out?
Yes.
Then yes, I did do that one.
Okay. So did I. When we signed in to do the WAPO puzzle this week, we got a little notification that said, I really, really strongly recommend that you print this puzzle out. It works better with the theme. And I, who have just gotten a printer, was like, ooh, hell yeah, let's use the printer because I have no other reason to use the printer. I also haven't done a puzzle on paper in ages.
I have to say, it's so much. That's how we used to do all of the puzzles. It's so much nicer to do them digitally.
It really is. And I actually had to find a pencil and sharpen it to do the puzzle because usually Grace and I would do it in the pen and it would be
We're rusty now.
We're rusty. And so now we got the pencil ready. I had so much fun doing this. It was kind of like the title of the puzzle was Big Little Lies. It's kind of difficult to describe. So I'm going to steal from Jim's description on Diary of a Crossword Fiend, which is like a crossword blog that they reviewed the crosswords of the week in case you don't know. So I'm just going to kind of steal a little bit of language from Jim here. Thanks, Jim. Mm-hmm. Essentially, there are words. So the words tiny, wee, and mini were oversized and make up the answers for mutiny, satiny, and retweet, alt weekly, and Gemini. So the words tiny, wee, and mini are within those answers. And then large words, like large, vast, and mega, on the other hand, are quite small, fitting into rebus squares and becoming parts of entries for devastate, canvas, tent, solar generator, dollar general, omega man, and home games. Matt and I actually did not finish this puzzle because we soared through the upper half of the puzzle, and the lower half of the puzzle, we could not solve it for the life of us. And I was like, eventually we had to put it down because, we just couldn't get through it. And then, of course, when I went to the Diary of a Crossword Fiend, I realized the reason why I couldn't finish the bottom half of the puzzle is because I didn't realize there was a rebus.
Yeah, started doing it by hand. And then once I figured out the theme, I there were some I couldn't figure out. I did figure out the rebus by hand though. And then I transferred it to the digital version.
Matt was urging me to transfer digitally. And I was like, we have 80% of the puzzle done. I don't want to type all of this into the thing now. But if we had, I'm sure we would have solved the rebus. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I liked being stumped. And I liked when I went to read about the puzzle and I saw that it was a rebus. I was like, oh, of course there would have been a rebus in the bottom half. Durr. Anyway.
You got, kid.
I got. It was a good puzzle, though. What else you got?
The Friday, March 12th New York Times by Peter Wentz. Ooh. Wait, Pete Wentz?
His name is Peter Wentz, okay? And I was thinking if I should bring this up because I'm sure Peter Wentz, crossword constructor, gets this all the time. But are you or do you have any relation to Pete Wentz of Fall Out Boy? That's mine and Grace's age range, okay? So just let us know.
What if it is Pete Wentz and this is his side thing?
Also let us know. We would love an autograph.
Yes, I liked 59 across, far from a popular spot. The answer was zit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty funny. And then I also liked the Saturday New York Times puzzle on March 13th by John Guzetta.
This was a good one.
This was good, but this one made me laugh. 57 across was Big Buttes. B-U-T-T-E-S. Looks like big butts, and the answer was mesas.
I like big buttes, and I cannot lie.
It's true.
One of the things that I liked from that puzzle, well, I don't know, not liked. I mean, I guess I did like it, but I wanted to bring up 37 down. Marathon runners wear, and the answer is race bib. But did you know that marathon runners have to wear pasties?
Yes. Is this? Oh, yeah, that's from. Yes, they do, because their nipples chafe. Haven't you ever watched The Office?
I have, but it's been a long time. Well, that's something I learned recently. And I just wanted to share that for anybody who didn't know that.
I think you can also put, like, Band-Aids over it. I don't know. That's in The Office, Andy Bernard. I think he puts, like, a cotton ball and then a Band-Aid over it. And he, like, has it under his shirt. Sometimes people also poop in their pants.
They do.
During marathons because they cannot stop. I mean, I get it. It's for their time, but...
Is anything really worth shitting in your pants? I don't know.
In front of people, like a lot of people too, because it usually happens at the finish line. I mean, I don't know. Has that ever happened to you?
Ever run and shit your pants during a marathon?
For sure, they pee in their pants. Because like that, no one could tell because you're so sweaty anyways. So you can't wear white socks.
Okay. Who the hell... Okay, first of all, who made up the lie that running is fun? Because none of this is interesting to me. In fact, it sounds horrible. Your nipples could just start bleeding because your shirt's chafing them so much. You piss and pee yourself, or pee and poop yourself. And then you're also just... You're just like miserable the whole time. Why is anybody drawn to this as a sport, as a recreational activity?
There was a TikTok of after the insurrection in DC, I think it was from that, but there was like literal army tanks on the street, and this woman was like, you know, there's one thing about white people, they will jog anywhere. It does not matter what's going on. And it shows this like man jogging past this army tank.
It's true.
And it's true. You'll see people out in Chicago. It's like negative 40 degrees, winter storms, snow everywhere. There's people jogging. I mean,
white people cannot be
stopped.
Good on
you, I guess, but that's just like a different breed of person than I am.
No.
And I don't mind running. I run every once in a while. You know, I'll run a 3 mile here and there, but I don't have this like compulsion to do it. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Obviously, for some people, that's their whole thing. And good on you. It's not hurting anyone. It's
not, I guess, except your nipples. Whatever.
Potentially your nipples, yeah. But maybe you can rub them so raw that they can't chafe anymore.
So what happens to your heels when you wear Doc Martens, which is what I do in my spare time. I just break in Doc Martens.
No, my heels are like rock solid from the ballet flat era.
It's true. You're not getting anything through there.
It's like a centimeter thick.
It's true. I hope. Oh my God. Okay. So the 90s are coming back, which means the 2000s are coming back. I'm just pleading that we do not bring back the ballet flat. I do not want that smell ranking up my shoe closet. The smell and all. I like hurt my feet from wearing ballet flats because they offer so little support. Oh yeah. They actually like hurt my arch. What is that thing that I have that I haven't dealt with recently because I don't walk anymore and I don't put shoes on? Plantar fasciitis. Thank you, ballet flat era. I now have plantar fasciitis. So anyway, that's. I mean, I really don't have that many hits and shits this week. No, me neither. That's all I got actually. So shall we move on? Let's flip the coin. The coin flip. All right. Let's do it. I'm flipping the coin now. Tails. Me? What? Okay. My topic comes from the Monday, March 15th New York Times puzzle by Philip K. Chow. And it is 14 across, The Fox and the Grapes Storyteller. Aesop. Yes. Ooh. Aesop's Fables. You've all heard them. But do we really know? So are we learning about Aesop?
Yes. Well, Aesop and his fables, one and the same.
Amazing. You'd love to see it. It's the fables for me. Sorry.
It's the morals for me. So we all know Aesop's fables, probably whether you think you do or not. One of the world's most famous like childhood moral story collections. But what's the real story? Do you know where Aesop came from? I didn't know, but maybe I'm just uninformed.
Aesop. If I had to, I'm not even going to guess where based off the name because I don't want to make myself look like a complete asshole. Please tell me though.
Okay, so who was Aesop? Sometimes he's described as being an ugly, deformed slave who told good stories.
Oh, great.
Some people even question whether or not he existed. Was he just an idea? The answers are unclear. We don't know for sure, but it is believed that he was alive from 620 to 560 BC. And legend has it, he was a slave in Greece. He was from like the farthest fringes of the Greek world. And he's depicted as being very kind of like misshapen and just described as being ugly, to put it bluntly.
Okay.
That is not my words. It's just multiple people have described him that way. The Life of Aesop is a novel that was written in the 1st century AD. And in this, it said that Aesop suffers from the, quote, disability of dumbness. And the goddess Isis gave him the gift of speech. So immediately, he started impressing everyone with his intelligence and his storytelling. Everyone, including his master, Xanthus. And Xanthus is his owner. They're constantly at wills. Aesop is eventually able to like achieve freedom just by using his cleverness and his storytelling, and he's set free. So he becomes kind of famous around town. He even becomes an advisor to the king of Babylon. And he is sent to, your favorite, the Delphi Oracle. But local citizens there accuse him of stealing like a golden cup or something, sacred, and they throw him off a cliff to his death. That's one of the main stories about him.
Damn. Okay. Don't piss off the ladies of Delphi.
Yeah. And if you want to learn more about that, listen to episode 71, See What You've Done. Chelsea talks about it there. But Apollo, the god, punishes the people of Delphi for their immoral decision to throw this poor man off a cliff, and he curses their crops and he gives them diseases.
Your curses are cropped. Or sorry, your crops are cursed. Bitch.
Exactly.
He said it exactly like that. I was there. So
yeah, I imagine. I'm not a historian, but Aesop lived on for eternity. So who really won?
Yeah, it was not the women of Delphi, apparently. Okay.
It wasn't. Oh, so there are no direct writings from Aesop himself. All of his stories were passed down orally. He is mentioned by various Greek authors, though, including the historian Herodotus, the playwright Aristophanes, and even Plato said Socrates was like low-key obsessed with Aesop.
Okay.
So it seems that he maybe did exist. A lot of people mentioned him. Or was he just a legend? Who knows? But his fables are simple and clear. Animals are often used as the protagonists, and they typically embody some sort of human behavior. And according to historybiography.com, Aesop created some typologies that we still have today. For example, fox is the embodiment of cunning, wolves are evil, and ant, foresight, I didn't know that one, and lions are majestic. So thanks, Aesop.
Thanks, dude.
The stories tend to offer an ironic and sometimes dark view of the world and the power structures that exist in it. And according to an article I read on historyextra.com called In Focus, Aesop and His Fables suggests that Aesop and His Fables suggests that Aesop's fables are more than just children's stories, but a rare insight into a slave's perspective from that time period.
Okay.
Because a lot of his stories talk about like power imbalances. A lot of them are tongue-in-cheek. They're a little more grown up than maybe the ones that we heard as children.
Grown up. Sorry, that's a Harry Potter reference. It's missed. So anyway, please continue.
The Roman poet Phaedrus, who was one of the first people to set Aesop's fables in writing into kind of like poems, verses, claims that slaves used animal fables when talking amongst themselves as a way to hide their true meaning. So they all are kind of like hidden meaning being like, these people who think that they're so smart and empowered low-key suck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. A lot of the fables focus on relationships between humans and their subordinates like donkeys or dogs, and between rulers like lions and the ruled like sheep.
Okay.
So during this time in Greek history, free speech against the government was dangerous, wasn't allowed. So fables were a way to criticize the government without fear of punishment. They were basically a code that the powerless could use to speak out.
Gotta love it.
And maybe more importantly, they gave hope that cleverness could be a means to succeed against a strong power.
Ah.
Which kind of leads into Aesop's story about how basically he was so smart and clever that he was freed from being a slave.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there are a total of 725 Aesop's fables.
Wow.
And I believe the most famous one is probably The Tortoise and the Hare.
Mm-hmm.
That one has been done to death, so I'm going to look at a different one.
Wait, you're not talking about all 700 and however many?
No. I'm not. I am talking about a couple of them, though.
Okay, great.
But I'm going to look at the ant and the grasshopper.
Okay.
Do you know this one?
I don't think so.
I didn't. So this is like a translation. This is from the Elliot Jacobs version. One summer's day, a grasshopper was hopping about, chirping and singing to its heart's content. An ant passed by, bearing an ear of corn he was taking to the nest. Why not come and chat with me, said the grasshopper, instead of toiling in that way. I'm helping to lay up food for the winter, said the ant, and recommend you do the same. Why bother about winter, said the grasshopper. We have plenty of food now. The ant went on its way. When winter came, the grasshopper had no food and found itself dying of hunger, while it saw the ants distributing corn and grain from the stores they had collected in the summer. Moral of the story, there's a time for work and a time for play.
It's also kind of anti-capitalist in a way.
Kind of.
It's very collectivist.
Yes.
I'm here with the ants.
That seems like, pretty nice story with a bow on top.
Nice.
Good for children, teaching them, that they can't just play all the time. Sometimes they have to prepare for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found an article on a philosopherstone.com called 5 of Aesop's Real Fables, the crude, vulgar stories that we edit to tell children.
Ooh, yes. Is this like NSFW?
Kind of.
Okay, great.
Not that NSFW. The author of this article is Abel Chan. So, Chan claims that Aesop's fables have been so edited and watered down for children that they have essentially become completely rewritten. Chan says that Aesop is, quote, a writer of stories filled with savagery, coarseness, brutality, and lacking in all mercy or compassion, filling instead with a refined sense of vulgarity that one can't help but admire.
Okay.
So, these are some stories that are translated but otherwise unedited from the ancient Greek texts.
Oh my
all right,
God,
and maybe a little
let's do
more
it.
spicy. Okay, so the middle-aged man and his mistresses. A middle-aged man who was going gray had 2 mistresses, one young and the other old. Now she who was advanced in years had a sense of shame at having sexual intercourse with a lover younger than herself, and so she did not fail each time that he came to her house to pull out each and every of his black hairs. The young mistress, on the other part, recoiled from the idea of having an older lover, and so she pulled out his white hairs. Thus it happened that plucked in turn by one and then the other, he became bald.
I love it.
You don't hear them telling that to kids in elementary school.
Not anymore.
So the moral of this story, according to Chan, is that which is ill-matched always gets into difficulties. By trying to please 2 opposites at once, one may lose everything in futility, pleasing nobody at all at the end of the day.
Okay. I
So
like
a
it.
good moral.
Yeah.
Probably not appropriate for a child, but...
No.
All right, the next is The Camel Who Shat in the River.
I love this one. Actually, I don't know it, but it sounds like I love it.
A camel was crossing a swiftly flowing river. He shat and immediately saw his own dung floating in front of him, carried by the rapidity of the current. What is that there? He asked himself. That which was behind me, I now see pass in front of me. True. I feel like we should be like snapping.
Right.
Moral, none at all. This was merely an Aesop's satirical kick in the nuts of the leaders that lacked vision and foresight in their governance of ancient Greece.
Love it.
We love to see it.
Add a bit of spice to that.
The last, more vulgar one is the beaver. The beaver is a 4-footed animal who lives in pools. A beaver's genitals serve, it is said, to cure certain ailments. So, when the beaver is spotted and pursued to be mutilated, Since he knows why he is being hunted, he will run for a certain distance and then he will use the speed of his feet to remain intact. But when he sees himself about to be caught, he will bite off his own parts, throw them, and thus save his own life.
Know when to quit, I guess.
Moral, according to Chan, is Aesop uses the privates of a beaver as euphemism for one's pride. He goes on to imply that pride is widely believed to be valuable, though said belief is not something that has been proven. But in spite of that fact, most will not hesitate to throw that pride away once their lives are threatened. And that's just the way we are, however degrading and embarrassing it is.
Damn. I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, if you had to cut off your junk to survive, you probably would.
How much junk is in your trunk?
That's personal. So, this kind of got me thinking.
Oh, okay.
About an episode we did way back in the day. Let's see, number 14, same but different, about the power of translation.
Oh, yes, Grace.
And the clue for this, if you remember from the crossword, was Fox and the Grapes. Who wrote Fox and the Grapes? And I found an article called this was on a blog called jaltranslation.com called The Power of Translation, The Fox and the Grapes by Josh Lambert.
Ooh.
And he talks about how, the translation has kind of changed this whole story, what we think of it, and maybe created even a new phrase in the English language. So let's talk about it. Most people know The Fox and the Grape, the V.S. Vernon Jones translated version. It goes like this. A hungry fox saw some fine bunches of grapes hanging from a vine that was trained along a high trellis, and did his best to reach them by jumping as high as he could into the air. But it was all in vain, for they were just out of reach, so he gave up trying and walked away with an air of dignity and unconcern, remarking, "I thought those grapes were ripe, but I see now they are quite sour." The moral of the story is it's easy to dislike something that you can't have. Mm-hmm. Like when you reject someone and then they're like, "Well, you're ugly anyways." It's
right.
Like, it's not what you were saying 10 minutes ago.
Right.
But it's widely believed that the phrase sour grapes comes from this translation, which sour grapes refers to the act of pretending not to care for something that you want but cannot have.
Ah.
However, a truer translation of the Greek poem is not sour grapes, but unripe grapes.
Okay.
Which kind of means the real moral is to be patient and return at a more opportune moment.
Ah.
Then you can get the grapes.
Right.
But why did they change this? Well, Lambert says, quote, "This move represents a calculated choice that was designed to reflect the needs and the dominant ideology of society into which the text was being translated. The term unripe would have also contained the sexual connotation of an as yet unripe woman, something that the author clearly sought to avoid in making his interpretation acceptable to the ultra-prudish audience of an approximately Victorian-era England." Yep, it's the prudes back at it again.
Comes back to sex.
The Greek phrasing is likely to have contained these sexual undertones as a fully intentional strand of meaning, with the original text existing in an age where advice against such actions would have perhaps been have more pertinence.
Okay.
The example serves to demonstrate the power that translation wields in shaping meaning and exposes the way in which language can be exploited to fulfill our own ideological wishes. More worryingly, perhaps, it demonstrates the extent to which we are often completely powerless to detect these changes. If we do not understand the language of the original, then we are left at the mercy of the translator. The power that the translator holds here is extraordinary. Books, songs, and films have subsequently emerged based on interpretations that developed from one man's personal, culturally bound take on an ancient text and the selection of one little word, sour.
Yes. Snapping for real. And I would really encourage everybody to check out episode 14 where Grace talks about translation. We talk a lot about this and the cultural impacts of like what you could be doing by, putting your bias into translating. And like, it's impossible to not be biased as like a human. Mm-hmm. And so it's impossible to not be at least a little bit biased when you're translating a text, obviously. And one example I love to bring up is the translation of the Odyssey and how the Odyssey was only translated by men for hundreds of years until finally Emily Wilson got to translate the Odyssey for the first time by a woman, and it completely changes the meaning of the text when you have a feminist perspective looking at a text like the Odyssey. And it also sheds light on like different types of sexist bias that potentially have shaped the literary canon that is taught in schools to this day. So,
yes, including Aesop's Fables. So I just wanted to end by saying it makes me wonder what other Aesop's Fables are misinterpreted due to the time and by the people they were translated in by.
I love translation as like a subject. I think it's so interesting. So I'm glad that you included that as part of your research.
Yeah. So if you have a book of, I'm pretty sure I had a book of Aesop's Fables growing up. I don't know if my parents still have it, but it could all be lies. That's not what, I don't think those stories are what Aesop ever intended them to be.
Exactly. And like, where is the camel shitting in the water? Where was that story when I was like a kid?
That one did not make the publication for the children's book.
It didn't.
Although it could have. Poop. Kids love poop.
They do. They love poop. I had a whole book about pooping when I was a kid. So
everybody poops.
They do. So.
Well, that's all I got. That's my topic.
I love it. Thanks for sharing.
No, thank you for listening.
So my topic comes from the Sunday, March 14th, Washington Post by Evan Bernholz. It is 9 across, December hours in Chicago. And the answer was CST for Central Standard Time. So what am I talking about today? I'm talking about daylight saving time.
Oh my gosh, you didn't even know when we brought that up in the beginning.
I know. As soon as you brought it up, I was like, this is gonna be thematic. Yeah. I feel like when I started my first real adult job, I had no idea anything about, I mean, like I knew that clocks went forward and went back, but I didn't understand the idea of daylight saving time. And I didn't understand the idea of like, you know, that the acronyms technically change when things change. Like, you know, my boss would send like a meeting thing out and it'd be like at 11 a.m. CST. And then a couple months later, it was 11 a.m. CDT. And I'm like, what the hell does this mean? I don't get it. But now that I've kind of worked in like, not corporate America, but I guess sort of corporate America for a while now, I'm definitely much more in tuned with this idea of daylight saving. And I also know now that people criticize it. We're going to get into the history of daylight saving. We're going to get into like how it works, why we have it, and whether or not we should continue to have it. So, yeah. You ready to get started?
Oh, I'm ready.
If you don't know, and I'm sure everybody knows, but daylight saving, the proper name is actually daylight saving with no S, time, not savings. But, you know, F it, we change language to whatever we want it to be, you know? Language changes with time. But its proper name is daylight saving time because it's about saving daylight time. Okay?
Oh, that'd be so annoying. And be like, actually, it's just daylight saving time.
Exactly.
Please don't do that, listeners.
Don't be that person. Yeah. It's basically the practice of advancing clocks during warm months so that it gets darker later in the day. And the typical implementation is setting clocks forward 1 hour in the spring, so springing forward, and setting the clock back by 1 hour in the fall, so falling back. This means there is one 23-hour day in late winter or early spring and one 25-hour day in the autumn.
You better make the most of that 25-hour day.
You better. I'm telling you, if your productivity doesn't spike, what's the point?
Beyonce has the same 25 hours in a day that you do.
Hashtag girl boss. Actually, that's a joke. I don't believe in that. I don't want anybody to think that I'm a girl boss here. Anyway, so yeah, that's DST, right? Civilizations have been adjusting their schedules to work more cohesively with the sun for centuries, even before methods were standardized as they are today. For example, Romans used to keep time with water clocks, right? At the latitude that Rome sits, the third hour from sunrise started at 9:02 solar time and lasted 44 minutes during the winter solstice. But during the summer solstice, it started at 6:58 and lasted 75 minutes. So they kind of like tracked time in their own way. Each civilization had their own thing. And also you could be Roman and track time one way, and like a couple cities away, they track time totally different. Okay.
There were no rules back then.
No rules. Thanks to industrialization, right? A lot of society started moving to a clocked-based schedule as opposed to following solar time. So solar time is literally just like rising with the sun and sleeping in the dark. So a clock-based schedule relies more on setting specific times during the day, and those times never change. So like it's basically, it works really well when the activities in your day don't really change throughout the year. So like the time you start and end work is always 9 to 5. Okay. The train that you get on for work is always at 10 a.m. So even no matter where the sun is in the sky, you always start and end work there. You always get on the train at that time, etc. Agrarian societies used to use, however, more of a solar approach, which, like I said, means they would, work by governing the length of the day via the sun. And it would change seasonally depending on the angle that Earth was tilting away from the sun. For example, north of the tropics, daylight lasts longer in the summer and shorter in the winter. And this effect is greater the further you move away from the equator. Okay? With these considerations in mind, where did the idea of DST, or daylight saving time, come from, and what's the rationale behind it? Like I said before, civilizations for centuries were adjusting their schedules to work better with the sun, right? Especially like the number of hours that you would have during the day. But it wasn't until the 18th century that there started being kind of, pushes for standardizing and optimizing these various approaches. Our good friend makes an appearance. Boom, boom, boom. Benny Franks is in the house.
He's in all our episodes recently.
He's been doing great. He's showing up. Benjamin Franklin, in case you've missed the last couple episodes, aka Benny Franks, he's back. Shout out to him. While living in France as an ambassador, Franklin wrote a satirical letter to the Journal of Paris in which he claimed to be astonished that on waking at 6 a.m., the sun was already up. Quote, "I saw it with my own eyes. And having repeated the observation the 3 following mornings, I found always precisely the same result." Okay, what's the big deal? Okay. So, Benny Franks argued that money could be saved if people rose with the sun and went to bed earlier at night, saving on expensive candles by instead using free morning daylight. Okay, so it's all about saving energy, right? Franklin knew that not everyone would agree with the standpoint, so he proposed various measures to enforce this idea. Taxes on window shutters, rationing candle sales by enforcing, police guards forcing that, a halt to non-emergency coach traffic after dark, and firing of cannons in the street to get sluggards with the program.
That's one way of doing it.
It's one way of doing it, right?
You're like, whoop, gotta go home.
Gotta get out of here. You can have all my candles. Are going off. Yeah. All of that said, Benny Franks was not taken seriously, right? This was a satirical letter that he wrote, okay?
He's a jokester.
He's a kidder. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, people started seriously proposing altering the clocks in order to, quote, save on daylight. In 1895, there is this New Zealand entomologist, which is like a bug collector scientist guy. His name was George Hudson. He proposed the first DST in a paper called On Seasonal Time Adjustment in Countries South of Lateral 30. He really wanted to have as many hours as possible during the summer to hunt bugs. So that was like his reasoning. Okay.
Okay, that's fine for him.
Right. And then in 1905, there's this English man named William Willett. He was, he loved golfing during the summer. He loved riding his horse in the summer. And he was like, yo, the UK should move the clocks forward by 80 minutes between April and October so we can enjoy more sunlight. Okay. He published a brochure in 1907 called The Waste of Daylight, and even spent most of his money trying to get Parliament to adopt what he called summer time. Sadly, he passed away in 1915 without ever seeing DST happen.
No.
Sorry.
All these people are so passionate about daylight.
They really, really liked it. Germany was the first country to adopt DST nationally. So before this, there were certain cities and different countries that were implementing some version of DST, right? But Germany was the first nation state to actually nationally control daylight saving time. In 1916, 2 years into World War I, the German government was looking for ways to conserve electricity and decided DST was the way to go. So Benny Franks was right. How can we save money on lighting our houses, right? Britain and other European nations followed Germany by implementing DST in that year as well. So William Willett was like 1 year away from seeing DST happen in his home country.
Cruel.
Can you believe? Russia and the US waited until 1918 to implement DST. And some other countries got rid of DST after World War I, only to implement it again during World War II. And those that kept DST around didn't really have standardized national procedures for DST, which we'll talk about in like a couple seconds. But essentially, like, World War I happens. All these countries decide to like save money on fuel and energy. So they implement DST. Okay. After the wars, no DST. Then we go back to DST for the next war.
They can't get away from it.
They can't get away from it. It was bound.
I can't quit you.
It was bound to stick around. Okay. So let's talk about DST in the United States. Time has been like a big conversation in the US since like the late 1800s. Okay. In 1883, the United States and Canadian railroads adopted a 4-zone system to govern their timetables and their schedules. States and municipalities then adopted one of these zones. So it was either Eastern, Central, Mountain, or Pacific. Before these zones existed, most cities and towns used some form of local solar time to kind of dictate what time it was by using a prominent clock within the town. So think like a clock tower or a church.
Wow, so everyone was all loosey-goosey.
It was loose as a goose up in the United States. And that's a fact.
Now we all just look at our phones and it tells us what time it is.
We don't even have to, like, I forget to change my microwave time, but like my phone changes by itself. I don't got to think about it. So yeah, this standard time that was set by the railways was not law until the Standard Time Act of 1918. This law established the DST from World War I that we just talked about. DST was repealed in 1919, but the standard time zones were not. DST became a local matter, so it was up to whichever city or state you lived in to decide if they were going to implement DST, and if they were, how they were going to do it.
Like gay marriage.
Exactly. It was not a federal decision. So yeah, like I said, DST was established again in World War II and used until the end of the war. Use of DST after the war, again, varied locally. Then comes the Uniform Time Act of 1966. Okay. The initial law was to standardize practices around DST. It required states that observed DST to begin at 2 a.m. local time on the last Sunday in April and end at 2 a.m. local time on the last Sunday in October. In 1986, the law was amended and moved the start date for DST to the first Sunday in April. And then again in 2005, DST was extended by 4/5 weeks by moving it to the second Sunday in March when it would start, and ending it to the first Sunday in November. Why? We'll get to that later. Do you have any guesses of why they might want to be moving DST throughout the years?
Farming? I don't know.
Great guess. I will tell you soon. So the Department of Energy, after they moved the DST in 2005, was required by Congress to report the impact of DST. And in October 2008, they reported a nationwide electricity save of 0.03% for 2007.
Worth
so not
it.
that much. You think it's worth it?
Hey, I'll take 0.03 of anything.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, the Uniform Time Act doesn't require all states to observe DST. States can exempt themselves, actually.
I know.
Isn't that crazy? If the state is entirely within a single time zone, the exemption applies statewide. If the state is divided by a time zone boundary, the exemption either applies statewide or to the entire part on one side of the boundary.
That would be really confusing if you lived right on the border and then you lived in one state and worked in another.
Right. Or like think about like Indiana. If you live on one side of the border in Indiana and then you have to drive to the other side of the border of Indiana, not only does the time zone change, but then maybe one side does DST and the other side doesn't. So double whammy.
My brain can't even wrap my mind around that. Arizona is one of the ones that doesn't do it, right?
Correct. And Hawaii. They do not observe DST. And Indiana speaking of Indiana, they only started observing DST in 2006.
Welcome to the club, Indiana. Our
Hello.
neighbors to the east,
Yes.
southeast.
I also want to note that the Native American nations or the indigenous nations within Arizona have the right to use or not use DST. So the Navajo Nation has chosen to use DST, and their, nation kind of extends into New Mexico and parts of Utah. In contrast, the Hopi Nation, whose territory is entirely within Arizona, have chosen not to use DST. Interesting. So how does DST work? For countries that use DST, because not all of them do, clock changes are usually scheduled to happen directly at or soon after midnight, and oftentimes on weekends to lessen the disruption of the weekday schedules. So the Department of Transportation controls the DST change in the United States, in case you were wondering. 1 hour change is customary, but everything between 20 minutes to 2 hours has been used in the past, depending on your location.
20 minutes. Wow. These
Yeah.
people are wild.
You guys are crazy. If a country observes DST, the clocks advance from standard time to daylight savings time or daylight saving time in the spring and are turned back to DST to standard time in the fall. So that's why you see that acronym change if you're like getting meetings like CDT one day and then CST another day.
I literally would never use that. I would just say 6C. Central time. I don't know which one it is.
I know. And then you just got to Google it, but it's like one extra step. Yeah. If a clock changes at midnight, it would read something like this. In the spring, it would go from 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds to 1 a.m. So you would miss that whole 24 hour.
Spring right ahead.
Crazy. And then in the fall, your clock would read something like this. 23, 59, 59 to 23, 0, 0, 0, 0. Ooh, so you lose a whole hour.
Fall back.
Or you fall back, right? So depending on where you live, the time which clocks change may differ. In the EU, for instance, it's a coordinated change. So all time zones change at the exact same time. So UTC, CET, and EET all change at the exact same time. So it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then 3 a.m. So this time difference among the different zones remains the same always. There's never any offset. Okay?
That makes sense. I can see why they did that.
I can see why they did that too. In North America, however, each jurisdiction changes at 2 a.m. local time. So, which obviously means there are temporarily odd offsets between different time zones. For example, Mountain Time is usually 1 hour ahead of Pacific Time. However, for 1 hour during the fall, there is 0 hours ahead of Pacific Time because of the time zone thing.
Yeah. But it's at like 2 a.m, so most people are asleep by then anyways.
Right. And time isn't real. So
True. Also that.
The difference of when clocks are changed can have varying impacts on work life, especially for people like Grace and I, who work at a company with international offices. I don't actually know if this affects you too much, but I work with a lot of people in London. Mm-hmm. And so clock changes vary not only by location, but also by day or of the year. So London is usually 5 hours ahead of New York City, except for a few weeks in March and October/November when it's only 4 hours ahead. Their DST date is different than ours. For instance, this year, we sprang ahead on March 14th, and the UK is going to spring ahead on the 28th.
I didn't
so
know
there's
that.
like 2 weeks where there's just like a random, like we're 1 extra hour ahead or behind.
That must be complicated, like if you have to schedule a meeting or call.
Trust me, I've been trying to schedule meetings with somebody I work with regularly, and she's trying to wrap her head around what time I got to do. And she's like, I can't for the next week and a half. It's just too much. I'm like, God bless you, because that's crazy. Yeah. So all of this leads me to whether or not we actually need DST. Do we really need it? Does it do more harm than good? What do you think? Do you care about DST? Do you have any feelings? Have you heard anything about these controversies?
I have heard that some people don't want to do it. I mean, obviously there's places that don't do it at all, and they seem to be. Arizona hasn't imploded yet, so seems to be working for them.
Right.
I don't have a strong opinion either way.
You might after I talk to you about this.
Well, I do like when we get an extra hour.
It's true.
But we pay for it.
We do.
Spring.
Oh my God. When we had to spring, forward on the 14th this year, Oh my God. I was like, I got to go to work tomorrow. I can't, I need the week to catch up.
But is it always on a Saturday night?
It's always Sunday. Yes. 2 a.m. Sunday.
Sunday morning. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
glad
always
that they
the
do that.
second Sunday of March.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Okay. So let's talk about some controversies. According to a report in March 2013, it found that only 37% of Americans surveyed thought that daylight saving time was worth the hassle, while 45% said it was not. Okay. So opposition for DST has been around as long as it's been implemented. There's this professor named Michael Downing. He's from Tufts University. He also wrote a book called Spring Forward, The Annual Madness of Daylight Saving Time. Here's a quote from him. Quote, "The whole proposition that you can gain or lose an hour is at best theoretical. So I think from the start, people had no clear idea what we were doing or why we were doing it. It just generates confusion, and confusion generates bad will." Okay, sure. So, like we talked about, the foundation of DST is energy savings. You may have noticed that I didn't mention farming at all throughout my history of DST. I think most Americans, when you're asked, like, why do we have DST? It's to help the farmers. The farmers, they have to get up early and you need sunlight and blah, blah, blah.
That's what I thought.
It is not true. We have been fed lies our entire life, okay? The thought...
First Aesop's fables, now this.
Yes. So DST is founded on this idea of saving energy. And the thought is that if it's lighter in the evenings, it means you need to use less electricity, which means you save money on power, right? Mm-hmm. Matthew Cochin, who is an environmental economist from Yale, compared the before and after use of electricity in Indiana after they made the switch to using DST in 2006. He published his findings in 2008 in the National Bureau of Economic Research, and he found that the lighting demand dropped, but the warmer extra hour of daylight led to more air conditioning use, which canceled out gains from reducing light and then some. Okay, so, all right. And then there's another environmental economist named Hendrik Wolff from the University of Washington, and he studied the Summer Olympic Games in Australia in 2000. So in Australia, at the time, I don't actually know how it's done now, but at the time, some areas of Australia were on DST and others were not. Okay. And he found that the lighting and electricity did drop in the evenings, but higher energy demands during dark mornings completely canceled out the evening gains. Here's a quote. "Everywhere there is air conditioning, our evidence suggests that daylight saving is a loser. If you don't have air conditioning, it could be a slight energy winner, but not overall in the United States. In 2007, we extended DST by 1 month in the US, and in that 1 month, it turned out to be a basically zero impact event." And it is basically accepted now between economists, like environmentalists, that DST, like, does not save on electricity. We don't save money on electricity by using DST, okay? According to Downing, who is the Tufts professor that I mentioned before, part of the story that is often ignored is the energy required to get people from place to place. Okay, we've just been talking about electricity, okay? Mm-hmm. What about gasoline? That's the big energy issue in the United States and the world, right? Petroleum and automobile industries have always been huge supporters of DST, Downing says.
Why?
Okay, quote, "When you give Americans more light at the end of the day, they really want to get out of the house. And they go to ballparks or to the mall and other places, but they don't walk there. Daylight savings already reliably increases the amount of driving that Americans do, and gasoline consumption tracks up with daylight saving." Okay.
Look at that.
So, okay, fine. Does it have any health impacts? Does daylight saving affect our health, positively or negatively? Yes. Negatively. Obviously, shifting clocks ahead in the spring makes for really tired mornings, right? Mm-hmm. But research suggests that the clock shifting may be far more dangerous to our bodies than we think. In 2012, a study by the University of Alabama at Birmingham found that heart attack risks surge 10% on the Monday and Tuesday following moving the clocks ahead each spring.
Oh, I read this somewhere.
Right. And this is in alignment with another study done in Sweden in 2008 that found heart attacks rose just after the spring change. Why? Theories.
Why?
Wow. There's mainly only theories right now because it's early days in terms of scientific theory. But likely it's sleep deprivation, the ruination of the body's circadian clock, the immune response, etc. Make sure you check out Grace's episode on sleep schedules or the REM cycles. I think that's episode 43, Manic Pixie Dream Carbs, where she talks about REM cycles. So you F up your sleep schedule. It's bad for your health. Okay. Apparently 10% more likely to get a heart attack on the Monday or Tuesday after freaking daylight saving. Are you kidding? No. Not interested.
Thanks. Not doing that.
So there is a chronobiologist named Till Roenberg of Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. And he studies the body's relationship between lightness and darkness. And he suggests that the human's body's circadian clock, kept in tune by light and dark, never adjust to the changing chronology of DST. Quote, shifting a daylight hour from morning to evening only increases, quote, social jet lag, Rosenberg explained, which basically means that your sleeping schedule is out of whack with optimal circadian sleep periods, making you chronically tired. So we've all been jet lagged, or if you've traveled to a different place in a different time zone, you've probably been jet lagged. DST, changing the clock by 1 hour, gives you like a symptom similar to jet lag, which is kind of crazy.
But I like having it be lighter at night. That's just me.
It's just Grace.
I'm just weird like that. I don't know.
She is.
I'm not like everyone else.
What else does Till Roenberg say? He says, quote, light doesn't do the same things to the body in the morning and the evening. More light in the morning would advance the body clock, and that would be great. But more light in the evening would even further delay the body clock. End quote.
He needs to mind his own body clock, okay? My body clock is none of his business. And I don't like to wake up early, so...
It's true. It's true. Just rise with the sun and sleep with the dark. We don't even need clocks, okay?
And we can just tell the month by our menstrual cycle.
Exactly. By, the full moon, when men become crazy around the full moon.
Throw out your calendars, throw out your clocks, and listen to your heart.
Listen to your heart, listen to the beat, listen to the rhythm of the street. What is that from?
Arthur.
Nice.
I knew immediately.
Okay. Fine. Body clock, circadian rhythms, whatever. What about the farmers? Like I said, a lot of Americans believe that DST was for the advantage of the farmers, which is actually not true at all. The agricultural industry was deeply opposed to the time switch when it was first implemented in 1918 because the sun, not the clock, dictated farmers' schedules. So DST was disruptive to their business. Farmers had to wait an extra hour for dew to evaporate to harvest hay. Hired hands worked less since they still left at the same time for dinner, and cows weren't ready to be milked an hour earlier to meet shipping schedules. Okay. Agrarian inch. Oh, yeah, I know. Could you imagine? It's kind of similar to last week. All these human choices put in shock on the cows' bodies, whether they wake up one morning and are suddenly in a ring with a mad cowboy slinging it around over its shoulder, or you wake up an extra hour early and they're like, time to get milked. And you're like, I have not even gotten in my milking position yet. Think about the cows, folks. Okay?
I do.
Okay. Agrarian interests led the fight to actually repeal daylight savings after World War I. And that's why it was repealed in 1919. And rather than rural interest, it has been urban entities such as retail outlets and recreational businesses that have championed daylight savings over the decades. What are you telling me? Are you telling me that daylight saving is all
capitalism?
Capitalism? Are you kidding me? We can't just live a peaceful, normal friggin' life. We got capitalism rapping at our door on, March 14th to 2021. Be like, wake up. I got to make money.
Wake up. Time to spring forward.
Shaking my damn head. Okay. Over the past 50 years, DST has been stretched from 6 months to 7 months to now 8 months because several industries have huge supporters for this because people will spend more money when there's more sunlight.
Hey,
Prove
works
it.
for me. I love going out when the sun's out.
Sun's out, guns out, wallets out.
Exactly.
In the mid-'80s, for example, the golf industry estimated that an extra month of DST was worth $200 to $400 million. That's crazy.
Wow. Golfers be golfing.
And during that
That's
same
for dang
time,
sure.
was your father the one just like rolling? He's like, ready, let's spend the big bucks. We got
No,
one
my
extra
dad-
month.
My dad golfs at like 6 a.m. So actually, he probably is upset about it.
I see. Well, tell him that that's what the summer months are for. You can golf later.
I'm not going to golf at night. He's not a plebe.
Who golfs at night anymore? Am I right? We just go to Top Golf when we want to golf at night. Actually, I like Top Golf a lot.
I know you do. You speak a lot of crap about golf, but you have a secret obsession.
With Top Golf, they have really nice heated little alcoves you can sit in.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Okay, golf makes more money with one extra month of sun. So if it's not golf, the barbecue industry, okay? They pegged their increase of profits of $150 million in that same like 1980s time frame for having an additional month to like sell their, meat, their barbecued meat. Okay. And then in 2005, the extension of DST was in part by lobbyists from the candy industry seeking to increase profits by including Halloween within the daylight saving period.
All right. I'm on board. I like the sunlight out in my Halloween costume.
Even if it means you're 10% more likely to have a heart attack on the Monday following DST in the spring.
Some chances are worth taking.
I also read that harsher judiciary sentencing happens directly after DST in the spring because people are just crankier. More car accidents are happening directly after DST.
Heard that too.
Because people
That's
are just
wild.
tired. If you're actually experiencing a symptom like, like a
Fatigue
or jet lag, and you have to like report to work or you're whatever, or you're getting sentenced, or you have to make big decisions or big things happen the Monday after the clock spring forward, like it makes sense that bad things are going to happen. And it really doesn't have any reason other than making corporations money. Like what? Like it's, I guess, fine. Like if people really enjoy that extra hour of sun, for sure.
Well, it is
But, like,
nice to leave work and not have it be like pitch black outside.
for sure,
Back when we used
especially
to
when
leave
you're
work.
especially when you're living further from the equator, because a lot of countries that live basically around the equator don't use DST because there's no reason to. So sunlight is the same all year round.
Another benefit.
So I would say, let's get rid of DST, and the people who really, really like having a lot of sun, just move to the equator. We won't miss you. I mean, I'll miss Grace, but
Rude.
Miami,
I'm coming home, baby.
I prefer darkness, so that's that on that. So
That's
I
that on
wonder.
your whole topic?
That's it. That's all I
That
got.
was the end?
That's it.
You like darkness? All right, that's fair. Fair enough.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Well,
Let's get rid of DST again.
you heard it here first.
Hopefully. Or maybe not.
Yeah, let us know. Maybe that'll be our poll this week. If you want to check out our polls, remember to follow us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Or you could head over to Instagram, see some fun pics related to our episodes. Our Instagram handle is The Good Evening Girls.
And our TikTok is The Good Eve Girls.
Come on over. Come say hi. We love hearing from you. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on DST and on Aesop's fables. So, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I guess until next week, we'll
Until next
smell
week.
you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.